today I'd like to talk about the topic of Psalmic initiation, or using the Psalmic path as a path of initiation, in addition to just using it for regular practical magic. Initiation is a series of practices, and to be a magical adept is the goal. Everybody is going to be some sort of an adept, a spiritual adept, whether they like it or not. It's just part of our how we've been coded evolutionarily. So everybody's going to get there one way or another. Even if it takes thousands and thousands of lifetimes, you will get there. You will learn through cause and effect all the lessons you need to know, and all the skills you need to acquire, all the stuff that just happens just by living long enough. You become initiated just by life. But when we're talking about specific initiation, purposeful initiation, we're talking about speeding that process up, saving time, saving thousands and thousands of years sometimes. So it's not skipping steps, but it's accelerating our evolution, spiritually speaking, accelerating our progress. And this is something that's been known for many thousands of years, generationally. Many magical systems over the years have been very protective of their systems and their paths. They don't want outsiders knowing their secrets. And there's some good reasons for that sometimes, more than ego. I don't want anybody to know what we do. We're going to hoard it and keep it to ourselves. It's not just that, although I'm sure a lot of that exists. But remember that all initiates at some point or another throughout time have been persecuted, have been targeted. The powers that be, especially religious institutions in the past, didn't like the idea of any initiatory path, because then you wouldn't need the church, and that would cost them a great deal of money. So there's a real good reason why many of these paths have gone underground. And they don't want the knowledge out there, or they didn't want the knowledge out there, because if you weren't fully trained in the system and you just got certain some of these techniques or whatever, if you found out about certain things and didn't understand the whole thing and weren't trained properly, you could cause problems for yourself and other people. So there were reasons why they didn't want people to be know about them or have access to their initiatory systems unless they gave it to them, unless they were actually administering it. So what they did, many of them, is they incorporated what are known in magical communities as blinds, like something that you would be blind to the fact that this is incorrect unless somebody told you, unless you were in the know. And so sometimes when you find initiatory systems like on paper, many times those things have blinds in them, so that you're not going to really get the system. You're not really going to get the benefit of it, because unless you have somebody to show you, not this, but this, not this, but this was changed, and then very key elements of that system are withheld or presented in a way that is intentionally incorrect. So that's a problem for people that are going it alone. Because before we get into the Psalmic initiation path, even if you do find a non-self-initiatory path, even if you do find a group or a coven or a tradition or a lodge or some sort of society that is willing to work with you and say, yes, we will initiate you and come join us. You don't know sometimes, are they legit? Are they a cult? Not occult, but are they a cult? Are there going to be abuses in there? Because it's fertile ground for abusive cult leader type personalities when you're dealing with secret knowledge and secret societies. And unless you come through me, you're not going to get all the goodies. So there's a lot of easy pickings for people that are predisposed towards any kind of abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, ritual abuse, any of those kinds of things, that is a big concern when you're dealing with secret societies, and it should be, because you can find evidence of it again and again and again and again and again. Now, that's not to say that that's the case in most of these. Most of these organizations are quite good, or many of them at least. I don't know about most. I don't know all of them, so I can't say most. But many of these, a great deal of these organizations are quite legit, and some of them you'll notice, aren't taking new students. They're not taking new applicants. So just hang out and wait, or find something else. But the Psalmic Initiatory Path is 100% valid. It gives you every single benefit of any other magical initiatory path. It does give you the way to adeptship or adepthood. It gives you a way to speed up your progress. It gives you a way to hone your magical skills. It gives you a way to bore through the mountain rather than going over it, which is an image that is often used in initiation, where you go through the mountain rather than over it. And it does that with no blinds. There are no blinds. The other thing about the Psalmic Initiatory Path is no one owns the Psalms. No one owns the Psalms, so you don't have to go through any person. You don't have to come through a particular line of ordination or series of initiations necessarily in order to get the benefits of it. You don't have to worry about cult-type behavior, cultic behavior, and things like that. You can actually work this initiatory path on your own. The Psalmic Initiatory Path does not preclude you from following any other initiatory paths. There's no oaths involved with the Psalmic Initiatory Path. You do not have to promise any exclusivity to this path. So you can be a part of the Psalmic Initiatory Path and become an initiate, and also follow other paths if you decide to. There's no restriction whatsoever on that. I'm going to just teach you the tradition as I understand it, the way I practice it. There are many other types of psalmic traditions out there. For instance, our psalmic tradition states that you do not require anything but the psalm in order to practice psalmic magic. You may, if you desire, add things to it. So you may add candles, you may add talismans, you may add other kinds of things if you desire, but it is not required. And the success or the results, the effects of the psalmic operation are maximal, regardless of whether you add any other ritual. That's just a matter of preference, but it will not affect the effectiveness of your operation if you add anything to your psalmic rituals. Now, there are a lot of traditions of psalmic magic that rely on other texts, such as the 6th and 7th books of Moses. And definitely I'm not discounting those traditions. You're more than welcome to follow those. They're fine, but they're very different in that they require you to follow the 6th and 7th books of Moses, which are not ancient texts. They are early 20th century or late 19th century texts, okay, that were there was a lie when they were released, which is not uncommon for a lot of that old occult literature, and maybe many of the new occult literature, that it was an ancient text, and it was not. It was written by some spiritualists that were immigrants from Germany that wrote it when they as they set up shop in the United States. So it is not, these texts are not ancient, but you're more than welcome to use them. But they're not required according to our tradition, and I don't use them at all myself. What is required is very simple, and you all know it, but let's go through it anyway. There are 2 steps to the psalmic formula. You take the psalm in question, decide what your objective is first. You always need an objective for practical magic, right? You don't just do it for whatever reason. You can, but then it's not really magic, right? So decide what your objective is. Then you read the psalm out loud all the way through once without stopping, That's the incantation part of the magic. And then you go back through the psalm and you search for hidden occult meanings within each verse, and you find them, you look for them, you dig for them, you contemplate them, and by doing that, by sitting and thinking these thoughts again and again and again within this ceremonial, ritualistic type of moment, in this meditative state, you are actually finding magic seeds which are inherent in those ancient texts and planting them into your deep mind, where they take root and they grow and they bear fruit after their kind. Now, the secret of psalm magic is that there are traditional purposes for each psalm, and we give you those. I mean, I have a little booklet. If you don't have it, you can go download it. It's free, and it says how to work psalm magic, and it gives you our little list of traditional uses. But remember that any psalm can be used for any purpose, even if it's not on the list like that. If you don't know what psalm to use, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It will get you there. It may not get you there as directly as certain other psalms will, but it will get you there, because all the psalms have something similar in mind, and that's getting you out of problems or out of want and into solutions, or into satisfaction, into the answering of your prayer, if you will. So you'll possibly save time and energy if you try to go with a psalm that's already leaning toward your purpose. But if you don't, you can still get there. It may take you a little while longer, but you can work any psalm for any purpose. Yes, you can. So in a nutshell, that's how our psalmic magic works, just on a practical level. Now, how do we work this if we want to follow a psalmic initiatory path? It's very simple. You take all 150 psalms in the book. So there are probably more than those 150 psalms in the ancient texts that were not included in the Bible. There are many that are existent in the different apocrypha already. So we assume that there were some psalms left out, but we're just using this 150 because that's just part of the tradition. It's built up around it. Around the book as it is. And you work that psalmic formula on each of the 150 psalms. And once you have done that on each of the 150 psalms, you can consider yourself a first-degree initiate in the tradition. And then you do it again. And then you can get your next degree in the tradition, etc., etc. You can be as high of as many degrees as you want. You don't go and talk about what your degree is. That's just between you and spirit. It's something that's private. That's occult. It's something you don't boast about. I've gone through that book 17 times. I'm a 17th degree initiate in the psalmic tradition. That's not considered cool. That's something that's just not usually done. That's one thing. Another thing is, one psalm per day is maximum that you're allowed to do, and consider this as psalmic initiatory path. In fact, more time is recommended. If you spend a few days on a particular psalm, even within the tradition, that's encouraged. And then when you're getting to Psalm 119, you have the option to either break it up into different days, or do the entire psalm on one day, if you want to, in one clip. That one you can make up your own mind. The bottom line is that don't be in a rush to get that degree, because it's not the degree that means anything. The degree is just a representation that you've done the work. So it's the work through the book of Psalms, that gives you the initiation, not saying I'm a first degree, not just rushing through and having done all 150. That doesn't do any good. You get that all the time when people first learn about psalm magic. They always are messaging me just like, how many more of these psalms? How about if I do 17 a day? Will that be better? How many more psalms can I do for this problem? How many more psalms? I need more, right? And I have to just remind them, I need more mentality is probably going to do more to keep you stuck in your problem than the Psalms will be able to do in getting you out of your problem, because your overarching attitude is what's going to be the magic, whether it's magic that's doing for your benefit or magic that's working against your benefit, right? So you need to be able to be very calm and clear, and remember that the quiet mind is what gets things done. Now, we have little mini initiatory systems within there that you can explore. For instance, we have different categories of psalms. So let's say you're working on the purification psalms. Those are a great collection. There's 7 of them. It's a great collection to work on if you have some big problems. If you've got real big problems, those are a great place to start. And then we have what are called the contractual psalms. Those are 5 psalms in that collection. Those are considered they're all-purpose psalms, but those are the most all-purpose psalms. Those are the ones that you can use again and again and again and again and again, and those are considered the stars of the show. Those are the kingpin of the whole book of Psalms, are those 5. And so when you're working a collection like that, you can take the collection and work 1 psalm a day. And going through, like say, if you were going to work the contractual psalms, you might work 1 psalm a day, and then it takes you 5 days to go through 1 round of the contractual psalms. And so you may want to commit to doing 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds of contractual psalms. Now, you can work on more than 1 psalm per day. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not like I'm saying, don't do that. But it has to be done with the attitude of peacefulness, not like more is better. Any psalm can be used for any situation. There's no superstitious magic in the Psalms. And I think that that's one thing that really separates a Psalmic initiate from a lot of people that first come to the Psalms, is they think, oh good, and more magic words. If I say these magic words, then something poof will happen. When people coming from that point of view use the word magic, they really mean superstition. Because magic is not that. Magic is the science of the magi, and that's exactly what any initiatory path is walking the way of a magi, walking the way of the magus, walking the way of an adept. So an adept doesn't say, oh, there's special powers in these words. Oh, there's special power in this powder. Oh, there's special power in this ritual. They understand that these things are there to be communication devices, methods of communication from my conscious mind to my deep mind that can change circumstances because the causal plane exists in the deep mind. So our own spiritual growth and things like that are, in addition to practical concerns, all work as a result of our communicating with our deep mind our new desired results. There's nothing in the manifest world that has power over any other thing in the manifest world. It is the mind behind those things that has the power. And so those symbols are powerful if understood in that way, but when they're used in a superstitious way, they actually rob us of power. And the same is true for psalm magic. People do it all the time. Okay, it's this psalm, this specific psalm, since it's used for money. If I say these words enough, and maybe if I do it, 100 times today, like a parrot, really quickly going through these words are going to go out and create money for me. And that's not obviously true. What's true is that the seeds that we discover inside the psalm that we plant deep in our minds grow and then become whatever our desire is, be it the money, be it the job, whatever we're doing the psalm magic for. So an initiatory path like this doesn't always have both practical implications and initiatory practices. A lot of times you hear about the difference between thaumaturgy and theurgy in magic, meaning if you're working thaumaturgy, it's all practical. If you're working theurgy, it's all spiritual. And you don't do both. That's been a misconception since the late 19th century. That you can't do both. You're either walking the path of selfishness or you're walking the path of the soul, and that's not true. The soul needs things in this world, so it's okay to get your practical needs met while you're walking the path. And that's exactly what the Psalmic Path is there to do. The Psalmic Path is there to uplift you as a spirit so that you are having all of those evolutionary experiences of any other type of initiatory path. And at the same time, it gives you the power to get your needs met. You get both things at once. Not only that, but it doesn't, like I say, that since it doesn't require anything other than the psalm unless you desire it, you don't have to worry about having special things around. So if you're one of those people that need to be private about your craft involvement or about your initiatory involvement and where you don't want people to know what you're into, having the book of Psalms or having a Bible, if you don't even want to have a separate book of Psalms, isn't usually the first thing that people point to and say, aha, I knew you were a witch. So those of you who like to be a little bit more incognito, this is a nice path for you because you don't have to worry about having robes and wands and knives and all of that if you don't want them. Now, most of us do have those because this is just, for most of us on this path, this is just another branch of our craft. But for some people, this is their craft, and that can always work, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if you desire an initiatory path, whether you want to include other parts of the craft in it or not, this might just be the thing for you. When you're walking the Psalmic Path, you don't have to do the Psalms in order. You can, but you don't have to. So what I would do is every time you work a psalm, just jot it down, or have maybe a list of psalms and you just put a check by it so you know you did it. So that by the time you have check marks on all 150 psalms, or on even all those little sub-psalms, if you're going to break Psalm 119 down, by the time you've checked all of those things off, then you know, I'm done. Now I can start another round if I want to. If you're going to do that, what I would recommend is that you have some sort of journaling that you do, some sort of magical journaling that you do every day, so that you can look back over the time that it took for you to do this first degree and see if you can notice the shifts and the differences in how your evolution has been sped up, how you have really moved from point A to point Z in a way that was a lot faster and more effective than had you not been working this path. Because you don't, when you're walking the Psalmic Initiatory Path, you don't have anybody but your inner teacher helping you. So nobody's checking on your progress. So that's why the magical diary can be very helpful, so that you can go back over the time that you've been working on this degree and see where that progress has been made. And then you can determine if you want to go through it again. 150 Psalms is a lot of Psalms to go through, and especially when you're not supposed to rush through them. So if this is something that interests you, I recommend that you give it a try. At least get that first degree under your belt and see if that's a path that you would like to move on farther, and recognizing that it doesn't preclude any other involvement in any other system, tradition, or religion. Okay? All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here. Until next time, blessed be.